We're going to bring in University of Minnesota professor Aaron Doering, who joins us now. Aaron, you've traveled all over the world talking about climate change. You've actually been doing this for 15 years. Explain to us sort of what the changes are in the environment that you've actually witnessed.
Sure. So, going back to the early 2000s, I was one who wanted to put a face on climate change and bring it to students around the world, bring it to the general public. So I literally traveled the entire circumpolar Arctic by dog team, went to Australia, Africa, to some of the most remote areas. And what I'm seeing, and more importantly, what I'm hearing from the people who live there, is that things are changing in a way that they never ever imagined. What we're doing is we're collecting what's called traditional ecological knowledge, which in the beginning people didn't accept as science, and now they have, because they know the importance of what has been passed down from generation to generation.
And that brings up just exactly another point. How do you think other places and sort of these far-reaching places that you've been to, how are their attitudes toward climate change different than they are here?
Well, the first thing, it's a canary in the coal mine within these regions, right? So they're experiencing it firsthand. With us in the mid-latitudes here, we can go through our life. We have the technology to adapt and so on. What I'm hearing from the Inuit elders, I just got back from the Arctic again, is that, why aren't people listening to us? Why isn't it that people are even coming here and seeing the changes that are taking place? And why are we not involved with the decisions that are being made, and how can we make more of an impact? The places that I traveled back in, 2004, we can't travel today. And I know that, you can talk about weather, you can talk about climate, but ultimately they are experiencing these huge bouts of drought. They have breakup of the ice earlier. They have just things that they never ever imagined they would have to deal with.
The Arctic feels like it's so far away, Aaron, for many people in the United States. Explain to us back home. What kind of a difference is climate change making for those of us who live just here in America?
Well, first of all, if we need to get our groceries, we just go to the store, right? One of the main issues right now in the Canadian Arctic is actually food and what they call food insecurity. And so they're still going out on the land, and they are hunting caribou, they're fishing Arctic char. And so what's happening with climate change is obviously we have the breakup of the ice and so on, but then also migration patterns, just as one example, are changing. So where they used to be able to go and hunt caribou and provide for their family, they can't do that today. And so there's so many different stories, and these stories are even, they're obviously not the same, but even you take it down to the Amazon, where they can't grow crops in the way that they were able to do for thousands of years. And so it's such a vast difference, but still, they're people like you and I, and they want to be listened to.
Aaron, how dire do you believe the impact of climate change is, and how does that then go along with the fact that maybe President Trump will be pulling out of this Paris climate agreement?
First of all, it's pretty unbelievable to even think or rationalize why he would want to do that. We're looking at almost 8 in 10 people in the U.S. believe in climate change. And is it dire? Well, we're at a point where we do need to make that decision, and the way that we're going to go about doing this is by joining together and also getting that private sector involved. You look at Apple, you look at Google. Google is now buying wind farms. They want to make a difference too. And so I don't really know exactly what the main initiative there is. Even when we look at, he's talking about jobs, right? We have 400,000 jobs today in solar and wind compared to 50,000 in coal. And so, there's all the reasons to go after that technology to be able to combat climate change, rather than just walk away and say, no, we don't want to be part of it.
So when you look at the financial standpoint of this, there was an article in Bloomberg that says pulling out of the deal is actually an economic loser for America. Would you agree with that, or do you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. You look at all the research right now of how many jobs are coming from the technology that people are investing in order to combat climate change. Everything from wind to solar, like I mentioned, there are many different other areas. And so it would be a big mistake, not only for globally, but also here in the United States, and what's going to provide for our people in the sense of jobs.
Aaron, how much of a big deal is the Paris Agreement, especially when you consider that President Trump has already rolled back President Obama-era environmental protections?
Well, first of all, we're saying that we want to be part of something, and we know that's voluntary. It's not mandatory that we do something, but Obama had already made these initiatives, had already put $1 billion into it from the very beginning. And, as we stand here, it's, the U.S., we're sending a message around the world, and if it is such that we're going to walk away from Paris. So everything that I mean, going back to Rio, right, from the very beginning, we actually made strides thanks to Obama, and now are we going to just walk away from it? I hope not, but I guess we'll see here in about an hour.
We certainly will. Aaron, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.